but the measure is not going to be how fast you do your work, but what the quality of your work is. So as a leader, you need to ensure that you're keeping the muscle strong on critical thinking in your workforce, that the humans on your team know exactly how to use AI, and that you're helping them sense make on the insights, the human informed and the AI informed, that drive your business and serve your customers.
Welcome to the Value Factory Podcast, brought to you by One Accord. We're all about helping businesses thrive and grow through leadership, strategy, and meaningful impact. Now, whether you're a seasoned executive or just starting out, our goal is to provide insights and inspiration to help you navigate your journey. Thanks for tuning in.
All right, here we go. Welcome to another episode of the Value Factory hosted by One Accord. I'm joined today by a special guest, Dr. Pamela Mattson, a culture strategist and executive coach. We're going to have a great conversation today. Before we do that, let's tell the world who you are, what you do.
Thanks, Nick. Well, I'd like to consider myself a world traveler. I love wine. I love food as a human being. But as my work and expression of who I am as a human being, I'm a culture strategist and executive coach. I help organizations close the gap between who they declare themselves to be and who they truly are. I'm an expert in culture, in leadership development, and driving a lot of conversations with companies about how they approach leadership, especially in the age of AI. What's expected of a leader when the smartest person in the room is now an agent.
This is going to be so fun. I've shared this with other guests. I became a student of leadership in my late teens, working for Bank of America and being exposed to some really great leadership development curriculum and training in, a large company. Just love the study and the science and the arts of leadership. And what an interesting time, like you say, in the age of AI. So for context,
I couldn't agree more. I feel like, go ahead.
Well, just for context, you work with some of the largest companies, the biggest brands that folks would recognize, and tackle some of the biggest problems, this being one of them, leadership in the age of AI. So I think we can have a lot of fun. What are you thinking on this topic these days?
Well, I'll add, I also work with a lot of startups, a lot of organizations who maybe don't even have a learning and development organization fully formed or integrated, but they're grasping very quickly that culture and leadership cannot be an afterthought. They're only as good as the leaders that are in the room. So a lot of my work is sort of combining the powerful insights from large organizations that are trying to pivot and shift and meet the moment, and organizations who are building this from scratch and wanting to be really intentional about their expectations of leadership and what's required of them to grow and scale their business.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, what a gift for that startup, that nascent organization, like you say, trying to build it.
Yeah.
I just a question comes to me: is it easier to build it or to fix it? It being leadership, let's say.
It's so dynamic. I think that polarizes the thing. I think it's a both. I think you have to be building it, but you can never rest. Like, it's never a thing that is done, because what's needed to meet the moment, to future-proof business, whether you're 25 million, 100 million, or a Fortune 1 company, you have to be very thoughtful about what's required of the culture. And we use the word culture. And what is culture? Culture in some ways is, how do people feel about the organization and going to work on Monday? Are they energized or depleted on Friday? What are the behaviors, systems, and symbols that define what it takes to be one of us? It's our ways of working when you don't define the ways of working. So culture is not just the values or behaviors that you might have as a headline on the About Us on your website. It's really how work gets done and the expectations of leaders. So it's dynamic. It's so dynamic. And leadership and the way people manage is an expression of culture.
I had a conversation so aligned with what you just said this morning, speaking with someone about their organization, kind of keep it really generic, right? And how this person had lost that love and feeling They wanted to just take the mic and start singing the song like it was Top Gun. The energy that they had to get up on a Monday morning and engage in the work was struggling for reasons that I think you just defined as culture. And in our conversation, this person and I, we connected it a lot to strategy or the lack thereof, and then communication, and then there's personality, then there's organizational design and the development and all of these things that in aggregate become culture. And in this particular case, that culture was trending negatively because over time, this person is feeling less and less enchanted by the work. Not that being enchanted by the work is necessary, but it's when a person becomes disenchanted with the work, that's a symptom of cultural issue.
It is. And I think that we also get stuck in a habitual way of where we source our enchantment. So, for example, if you've worked with an organization who had high growth velocity and we're defining success based on the number of employees they were adding on, headcount growth, investment, and then the tide shifted and investor expectation shifted to, hey, we're excited about your growth, but we're going to stop asking you about that and stop using that as a measure of success and start asking you about your path to profitability and how sustainable and scalable your business is. You've just created technically a shift in strategy and focus and orientation. Psychologically, you just redefined success. So
Mm.
what got you here will not get you there. And so a lot of organizations are engaged in, not to overanalyze it, but truly a psychological identity crisis and rewriting of definitions of success. So in the early stages, for example, lead teams, functional leaders, even founders can measure their success based on being the smartest person in the room, driving the action, inspiring execution, pointing the strategy. But as you scale, you have to start measuring your success based on the number of great decisions that happen when you're not in the room. That's very different. Am I
You are
telling or I'm asking great questions? And how do I feel about myself if somebody executed, and even better if they executed in a way I would have never thought of? That's a yay. I have unleashed someone's genius. I have hired someone who can do things in a different way, adding to the collective genius of our organization. But if I'm not yet attuned to that enchantment, I could see that as a risk.
you're talking into my life right now. In a big way. We at One Accord, we're in this chrysalis right now, of, one season to the next, one from caterpillar to butterfly. Not entirely out yet, but getting there. And the experience that I have as not founder, but owner and CEO in really coveting, like really wanting those experiences where someone else makes a decision. I'm not in the room. I'm not even, consulted about the decision, but it's the right decision and has a positive impact, right? I don't yet know what it feels like to live in that experience.
Yes. And the getting there, so you're pointing to something very nuanced but very important. We all want that. Like if you ask any leader, they would say, do you want great decisions happening when you're not in the room? Do you want great work happening when you're sleeping? Do you want like new and innovative ideas to be executed across the business? Do you want grand collaboration across your key functional areas where at Amazon, they would say it's a collaboration tax. And I'm saying, actually, it's a collaboration dividend. Go capture it, in the quality of communication. But the subtle pieces of interrupting that potentiality happens not in the, I haven't experienced that, but in the subtle feelings of how you run a meeting, the questions you ask, the questions you don't ask when you speak in a meeting. So the teeing up to having that execution outside of your line of sight requires a lot of intentionality. The good news is you're aware of it and you're talking about it. A lot of leaders want that outcome, but they don't quite know what inputs are required for that mechanism to actually come true.
The first step to solving a problem is admitting you have a problem.
Yes.
All right. So that's really near and dear to my lived experience right now as we evolve as an organization. And just for context in this, over the 2 years that I've been CEO of the company, most every decision was made by me. Things happened with my approval. The first kind of area that things were happening without my direct, signing off on a specific action was in marketing. And the first time I saw some content posted online that I hadn't previewed scared me. I had a,
Yeah.
oh no moment, right? What have I done? And then it worked out really well because it's good content and we're aligned in that. So that's good. And as we evolve, we have some other leaders in the company that are working through initiatives that I'm not involved in. I'm getting reports kind of ex post facto, like this is what happened. I'm like, oh, that sounds good. And then I have to go look in the mirror and say, okay, this is what you asked for. It's okay.
Yeah.
Get myself
Yeah.
done. Um, but that's all just human stuff. That's all just like this has been happening for a long, long time, thousands of years, let's say, as we all kind of grow up. But something that hasn't been happening for thousands of years is what you just said, that there might be an agent, meaning a robot, a digital thinker. And I was blown away by a headline that I saw just yesterday, I think it was, that in Argentina, do you know what I'm talking about here? Argentina appointed an AI agent into a ministry. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Whoa. Whoa. I only saw the headline. Like I don't the long term kind of second order, third order effects of this are wild. I won't go once a good bad. I won't even say that. Just wow. What are we gonna do?
It's a big question.
But we should
And
tell the
I'll
story of
frame it.
what I was just talking about in case
Yeah.
you hadn't read the headline. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is true. And there are variations on that truth across the board. So even if it's not a high level position, there are high level positions, or at the very, very least, major radical changes in job functionality, expectations of leaders, expectations of employees, and how we work in this human and AI fusioned teams. And then how do you lead a team that has both agents and humans? And then who do you as a human need to be in order to lead that? And, my headline is sort of how do you unleash the genius of your digital and human workforce so that there's thriving and you're really elevating and capturing what's available to you. Because if we're in fear, if the humans feel disencumbered by the AI agent, and AI agent doesn't have any feelings, just to be really clear, it's a language model. But it does create a psychological impact on the team if it's not framed and held properly. So what a leader needs to do and not do has shifted dramatically, and how employees think about their work and what they're here to do has changed dramatically. So it's a brand new world, and it's not going away. It's going to evolve and shift.
Not only dramatically, but rapidly. And the convergence of the significance of the change and the pace at which the change is occurring, I'm observing puts many at just a standstill.
Yes.
Like I have
Yes.
no idea what just happened or what's about to happen, and it could happen in a day. Tomorrow seemingly could be much different than today. So how on earth do I take action today?
I don't have an exhaustive answer, but I will name a few things that I am absolutely bringing to the table as I work with large and small organizations alike who are navigating this. And even some of the startups, a lot of the startups that I work with are agentic AI startups. Like this is like, we're bringing this technology to the table and we're grappling with it internally, and our customers are grappling with it. So we've got like the trifecta of the impact of an AI enabled workforce. So a few things to think about. One is it's here to stay. So like on the change curve, like get close to acceptance as quickly as you can because it's here. The second thing I would say is this is an exciting opportunity for the sleepers. And by sleepers, I don't mean non-active employees, but a lot of elevation and promotion of leaders were based on intellectual capacity, the ability to hold data, manipulate data, create insights from data, and that has shifted. So you're able to do a couple of things. One, elevate the part of your workforce that leads with systems thinking, is more human oriented. Your smartest employee may not be your best employee. It may be your most empathetic or compassionate, or the one that can bring people together. The sense makers are the ones that are going to win this if they can lean into those capabilities. You cannot abdicate your critical thinking to AI. So it doesn't mean that, your less than average employee is now above average, although that's the case in terms of proficiency or productivity. But the measure is not going to be how fast you do your work, but what the quality of your work is. So as a leader, you need to ensure that you're keeping the muscle strong on critical thinking in your workforce, that the humans on your team know exactly how to use AI, and that you're helping them sense make on the insights, the human informed and the AI informed, that drive your business and serve your customers.
Okay. I want to take what you just said and get the transcript. And I feel like I need to read that through. You said some very important things right there. And I'll start with the notion of sense making. There might be 3 or 5 people on the planet that I've ever dialogued with around sense making. It's not a common, it doesn't make sense to a lot of people to say sense making,
Mhm.
if you get the pun.
Yep.
But so important,
Yes.
so important. It is just the idea of, is what I'm looking at, does what I'm looking at make sense? Is the response back from this GPT agent, does that actually make sense? In the context of the work that we're doing, does the agent's behaviors, do those make sense, or are they out of line? Are they out of place? In order for someone to be able to make sense, don't they have to be very well educated, very broadly knowledgeable? Like, how does someone make sense of things from a place, and, forgive me, but from a place of broad ignorance?
I'll frame it in a frame that I've been using recently, and frameworks are one of the ways that we sense make. Your podcast is actually a sense maker. Like, let's take a tough topic and apply some thinking or lenses through which we can look and see something differently or something more clearly. So one of the frameworks that I use is connection, context, content. So in the world of work, ahead of AI, we would always start with content. You go into a meeting, you have an agenda, you're going to execute, you're going to do this, and we would miss connection, like human connection, and the context. Why are we talking about this? Why is this important for our customers, for our strategy, in the grand scheme of things? Why have we decided at this meeting, at this time, at this particular point in our history is a critical use of the resources that are in this room? If I tie this to I think that we can distribute some of the workload on the content
Mm-hmm.
to AI, but it's up to us to hold the two other C's: connection,
Yeah.
hello, human,
Right.
soul to soul, not role to role. That is a uniquely human capacity. And context. I viscerally understand my system in a way that my language model, my agent, could never. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's my job. And so part of sense making on this topic is,
Yeah.
what is the role of the human where 1 + 1 = 1,000? And what is the role of AI? So connection, context, human,
Yeah.
content, data information, aggregating data,
Yeah.
that great. It's an input. It is not the end game.
This is fun. Okay. So on connection, what I've observed with the way the AI models are being built and trained is that they are leaning into connection. So there's so much, I don't even know what the word is. They're very complimentary. Whenever I make a prompt or I suggest a great suggestion, right? They get a
Yeah.
lot of positive affirmation back.
Hi, Nick. Thanks for that context.
Yes, right? So there's, and I'll tell you, sometimes that hook gets in and I'm like, "Oh, I'm buying it. This
Yeah.
my GPT loves my,
Yes.
oh boy, got to be careful." So there's some connection there, but it isn't human. So okay, I get that. Content. One of my first experiments with GPT, maybe 3.0, Chat GPT. I don't recall what version, but it was an early version. I asked for quotes of professional athletes attributing their success to God. And maybe there were 30. And one of them was Michael Jordan. ChatGPT told me that Michael Jordan gave thanks to Jesus for the success that he's had in his career. And I was like, no way. Not the Michael Jordan that I think I know. Went out of GPT and into Google. Hey, Google, is Michael Jordan a Christian? And I don't think there was much evidence for that, right? So there was a hallucination, made up a quote. So I went back to GPT and I was like, is that a real quote or did you make that up? Oh, good job for asking. I made it up. Like, what is going on here? Okay. So that's content and context. So I'm telling this story to get to that place where when I say there's a risk of broad ignorance, right? Just not knowing much about anything other than a really narrow sliver of life or business or something, I think is a big, big risk in the new paradigm where individuals can be fooled by the content that the AI agent is producing because we lack lived experience and context that would tell us, I don't think Michael Jordan's in church every Sunday.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I love that you used the word lived experience. And what it makes me think about, well, I'll say this first. We don't know how this is going to evolve. So this is a very dynamic conversation that, in 3 to 5 years, somebody might look at this podcast and say, wow, they had no idea. Because I mean, technology is that dynamic. So I'll just say that, like, given
Yeah.
what we know right now, we're navigating this complex environment and sense making it. But I love that you said lived experience, because at the end of the day, we wake up in the morning, we want to be successful. The humans, we want to be successful. The recipe, the formula for success is changing dramatically right now.
Hmm.
And so you're giving humans a great job to do. You're basically saying, how do you leverage your lived experience, your understanding of the context, and your ability to connect eyeball to eyeball, heart to heart with the humans that you do work with, the people that you share space with, and leverage the intelligence of a language model and agent to speed up the productivity of your team, or aggregate data much more quickly, or provide brainstorming ideas, or to help you polish and rewrite something. But don't take yourself out of it, because that is the uniqueness of what your organization is able to offer, what you uniquely is able to offer as a human being. So leaning into this technology as a tool, but not abdicating your presence, your ability to connect to humans, your lived experience, your critical thinking. That's the synergy, that's the alchemy or the fusion of human plus AI. And so leaders and cultures have to learn to unleash this collective genius and that fusion of human and AI. And it's really exciting, but we have to help on the change management curve people see the opportunity. I'm going to have the opportunity to be as sophisticated a human as sophisticated this technology is. I'm going to meet that sophistication with human sophistication.
The change management curve, which I don't know which way this curve goes.
There's a dip, I will say.
From your observation, and here again, I love what you said. A week from now, this conversation could be just not make any sense because of what might happen. That is fun and scary at the same time. But the curve, the change management curve. I started thinking about multi-generational workforce, of which most companies are representative of some layers and some are very, very broad. My firm, for example, 4 decades easily, in age range. Where do you observe people are on that curve? Are there direct correlation to, demographics? Is it age? Is it location? Are, folks in Birmingham on a different stage on that curve than, let's say, San Francisco? What are you seeing?
I'll attack this academically, and then I'll attack it sort of like real life. Academically, we could consider this the definition of entropy, unused energy in an organization. So if we're polarizing generations or putting them all in the same pile, we're missing an incredible opportunity. And I'll just use your word again, lived experience, to leverage the lived experience across a population in order to unleash more genius. So if we like an employee as an employee as an employee, we have all same expectations, same motivations, same skill sets. We know that's not true. We've got native geniuses that were born with a device in their hand. We've got the Gen Xers who learned because they're just gritty and hardworking and were latchkey kids, learned how to work with digital, but not until the late 90s, early 2000s. You've got the baby boomers who have a ton of wisdom, but very much shaped. And this is a huge generalization, only applying to 1,000 or more, not less, because there's exceptions to all of this, who are hardworking, incredibly loyal, likely stay at companies, and are about hierarchy and structure. Sometimes they were sort of born in that industrial generalization or industrial evolution to like, how do we land predictable workplaces? And so then we've got our Gen Zs coming in who They work to live, not live to work, and often get misunderstood in the workforce. So at a minimum, you've got those four at play. So entropy is, what are we not leveraging in those four generations? And so it's about, again, this is going to harken to the human skills, curiosity. How can I be curious about your lived experience? What can I learn from you? I might be 55 learning from a 20-year-old. The 20-year-old has a lot to learn from the 55-year-old too, but it's not just one direction. How do we leverage these skills, these lived experiences in service of our customers, in service of our mission, with
Mm.
the undercurrent of technology underneath it? But I'll be hosting a panel very, very soon about this very topic. And I just said, I love the conversation, but the angle that I'd like to take on this panel is, what do we need to know about you? If you
Mm.
were, I know you can't represent your entire generation, but what do we get wrong? What do we misunderstand about you?
Mm.
How are we not leveraging you? What's a skill set that you've not yet been able to bring to work or haven't brought in a long time? And that's for a baby boomer to answer and a Gen Zer to answer. And it is wild to hear the answers. Wild. I
I
haven't
want
thought of that.
I want to hear that panel discussion.
Yeah. And I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example. Like the orientation that I should be here forever, um, it just feels inaccurate to me. It feels like unrealistic to me. So how can you measure success? This is going to challenge every HR orientation, not by retention, but how many loyal culture ambassadors do you have? Because I worked here for 2 years, 3 years, max 5, and I learned so much that you were a master exporter of talent. What if you were measuring success by being an exporter of talent?
No, you are just talking right into my life. I That literally is a core tenet of my vision for this firm in the future.
Yes.
Is I want college grads to want to work at One Accord for a couple of years so that they can move on to the next big thing.
Yeah. And they're literally going to get a master's degree in end-to-end scope, business exposure, value creation, understanding various functional areas and how the alchemy of those functional areas create a sustainable business. You can't get that in a smaller scoped job in a very large organizations, but you've got to frame your employee value proposition to speak to that. Because the disconnect means you literally, okay, you're a ladder organization. It's about climbing the ladder. Great. I want to have your job in 2 years. And then they go, oh, they're unrealistic. No, they're just trying to play your game
Game
in
that we
their time frame.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love it so much. I could just keep talking and talking and talking. This is too much fun. But we don't have that much time. So we'll just have to do it again.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for sharing thoughts in leadership in the context of AI, or kind of in this ever changing, hard to say, paradigm, right? In what we know to be true, that the only constant is change, and it just happens that that change is picking up pace and impact. Thank you so much,
Thank
Doc.
you. It was a fun conversation. I look forward to more.
Excellent.